Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Peregrine's Spring Webinar Series. And today we're here to talk about Healthcare Administration Assessment Tool, how you can use it for your programmatic evaluation and also internal external benchmarking. Um, we are planning to record this session. So at the end of the webinar, we'll be happy to share with you a link to the video recording so that you can review it if you need to, or share it with your faculty members who are not able to make it to this webinar. And my name is Alima Jamian Soren. I'm Director of Partner Relations here at Peregrine Global Services. And shortly with me will be joining my colleague, Denise Albert, who is our Client Services Manager. Oh, I see Denise, she's already in, but she joined in as a participant today. So if you have any questions, you can type them into the question dashboard pane. You can raise your hand. Oh, I'm sorry, there's a lawn mowing going right outside of my office window, but hopefully they'll move away. So if you have a question, please feel free to ask them during the presentation, or you can wait until the end where I plan to leave a good chunk of time for Q&A. But if your question needs to be asked and answered right at the moment that I'm talking about a particular subject, you can click on that hand icon, and then I'll try to come to periodically and check for raised hands or questions typed into the question pane. All right, so with that, I really appreciate you joining us in our presentation. And I know we were planning to meet with many of you at the CAMI Bootcamp or the annual AUPHA conference, but we'll stay connected. That's the beautiful thing about virtual meetings. So most of you know Peregrine Global Services. Together with all four of our sister companies, we believe we can change the world. And the four entities are Peregrine Academic Services, Leadership Institute, Global Foundation, nonprofit arm, and Pathways, where books are published of leadership and assurance of learning. We truly believe in improving the quality of higher education, contributing to the improvement of the quality of higher education, and developing values-based leaders. We have technical ability, we have experts and consultants who come up with innovative and timely solutions to any of your challenges. So we listen to you, we'll learn from your uniqueness, and with you we'll find solutions, as I mentioned. And then our experts come from various backgrounds and cultures and industries, so there's a great variety of perspectives and wealth of knowledge we'll bring into working with you as thought partners. And then our goal is to provide you with practical solutions, right? Innovative solutions, technology solutions to solve today's problems for tomorrow's success. This is the list of our higher educational offerings. They fall under assessment services, online educational courses and programs, and also the services that relate to academic consulting and other forms of resources. Today, of course, we're here to talk about our healthcare administration assessment tool. And most of you are very familiar with the continuous improvement processes, right? You're going through an accreditation, you might be going through a certification process, and then assessment of learning outcomes and competencies is a key requirement for both not only institutional, but also programmatic accreditation. So the challenge is, of course, for you to find an assessment tool that meets both those requirements, but also flexible, that is comprehensive. And in today's world, of course, online and affordable, and most importantly, provides you with expansive reporting, analytics, and metrics, right? And that's what we're here to provide you with. Here's a little nice infographics that shows you the continuous improvement of student learning with the closing the loop, right? So that's a nice graphic. So our goal with this service has been to provide you with meeting those needs and requirements, right? So our solution is cost effective, it's practical to helps you provide programmatic level learning outcomes and competencies. We are able to provide comparisons of your students results, of your program's results, with multiple external aggregates. And then when you use, we offer you an inbound and outbound, or a program level pre and post structure. You can really get good understanding of your program from the internal analysis. And we are here to directly measure students' retained knowledge. And we are here to address multiple accreditation requirements. Um, this particular tool is for measuring learning competencies, right? We also have a soft skills assessment tool we call Evalu Skills. And with a lot of the healthcare programs, with your embedded internship and residency programs, soft skills assessment is essential. So if you wanted to learn more about it, I'd be more than happy to schedule a separate time with you and to give you an access to the value skills and show how the incredible also reporting we have for the soft skills assessment tool. As it pertains to our healthcare assessment, um, we provide you with a normed summative assessment, right, that you use for internal and external programmatic evaluation. It is customizable, and it's easily managed and could be easily integrated into your healthcare program. Um, the assessment is specifically designed to address your programmatic and certification requirements as it relates to learning outcomes and competency measurements, quality assurance, and benchmarking. You know us by now. We've been, part of a CAMI community and APHA community, and have a number of projects. We've just co-authored, or contributed to a white paper that was published by CAMI. If you have not received a copy, we have a link to the copy of the white paper on assessment. We also work with APHA and on establishing especially a separate assessment tool, and we have made a great progress. Essentially, we um, will be offering our assessment as such, plus with a few additional topics that may be more specific to APHA. If you have been tracking progress on the APHA Peregrine assessment project. So the key features of our healthcare administration assessment tool are, first of all, you can build a specific assessment service that's aligned with your learning outcomes and competencies by selecting from the 23 available healthcare administration topics. So those are our test bank topics that we have created with subject matter experts and make it available to you. You can integrate the assessment directly into your learning management system for seamless delivery of the assessment to your students. And another advantage is the scores get posted automatically to the gradebook. So if you ask a faculty who's teaching, for example, a capstone course to administer this exam as part of their course, then you're not asking, are you able to hear me? Someone says not able. If you can hear me, can you raise your hand? Yes. Oh, good, good. All right. So I saw a message that someone was having a hard time hearing, but if you're able to hear, good. I'm glad that um, the issue got resolved. Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you for that great feedback. It would be not good if I was talking for 8 minutes and no one had heard me. So loud and clear. Thank you very much. All right. So coming back to the posting of the scores onto your gradebook automatically. And all faculty are busy, and you guys are all busy, program directors and department chairs. So when you administer this exam, you're not asking anyone to take on any extra work or activities. So that's the nice thing about LMS integration. So when you sign up to use our assessment, you get full access to all your individual students' results, and an ability to generate the reports. And the client admin site is available to you 24/7. And Denise Albert, who is our client services manager, and her team works with you to provide your client admin tour. They are happy to train you how to run the reports, how to interpret the report. So you get an excellent team of client services managers and technical support that will walk you through not only running the reports, generating them, but also helping you with reviewing the results, because there's a wealth of knowledge and experience built within our client services team. You are able to benchmark your students' scores and results with other institutions based on institutional demographics. We have a wealth of aggregate pools to compare your students' results against. And then another advantage is that when you sign up to use our assessment tool, you don't have to have a proctoring services also purchased, and that will saves you anywhere from $25 to $95 per student, right? So that's nice. But then we're able to provide you with a non-proctored exam because of the safety and security features built into our platform. And one of them is drawing questions randomly from the test bank of thousands of questions, uh, offering topics, subtopics, and subjects also randomly to the students, and some other features that shortly I will share with you. And this is the list of the 23 healthcare administration topics for which we have Peregrine test banks. And they are organized within the 5 healthcare leadership alliances domains. So if you needed to sort of bucket them, and each topic offers anywhere from 6 to 12 subjects. And when you run the reports, these reports will be provided you on a subject level. So you get a really good detailed analysis and results. So going straight into the actual instrument, we do use, as I mentioned, an inbound and outbound assessment approach. So that's simply a program level pre and post test. So students complete the inbound exam as early as possible in the program, right? And then an outbound exam towards the end of the program. So the comparison of the inbound and outbound exam scores provides you with a direct measure of learning. That is your value added of your program to your students' knowledge base. So the idea is, say your students are, graduating, and on the outbound exam they score 75%, for example. It's one story if your students scored 40% on their inbound exam, but it's a whole another story if they came in at the 20%, right? So some schools are able to use the assessment results as part of their marketing materials, as part of the demonstration of a value-added program. So there's implications beyond just conducting assessment for the sake of meeting accreditation requirements. There's a lot of ways you can use the data and the results for your programmatic, not only improvement, but also communications with the stakeholders about the quality of your program. Um, you will get, of course, detailed analysis of the exam results, and they are used for evaluating your learning outcomes and competencies. And then there's that cumulative results you can benchmark as well. If your student body demographics do not change significantly, um, you can conduct inbound and outbound exams concurrently for statistically valid comparisons. And when your students who have taken the inbound exam, right, uh, complete your program, and the same students take the outbound exam, you can run an individual student progress report, which we call pairwise reporting. I just want to go to make sure that I'm answering all the questions that are out there. Yes, I answered that. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for that feedback. Um, let's come to the customization of the exam for program alignment. Program managers, you are going to select the topics from the list of 23 that apply to your particular program. And in most situations, a bachelor's level exam will include anywhere from 12 to 18 topics, and a master's level exam might have anywhere from 10 to 15. Um, I've seen actually higher numbers, 18 and 20, but I do recommend to, not go way too much. Really focus on the areas that are covered in your program. And the topic selection should depend on your learning outcomes and program curriculum, right? And then for each exam, each topic offers 10 questions. Each exam offers 10 questions per topic to your students. So if you have a 10 topic exam, that's a 100 question exam. And then if you have selected 18 topics, that's 180 question. So most typically, you administer the assessment exam as part of a course. Typically, the inbound exams are included as early in the student's academic program as possible. If there's intro to healthcare systems, or a lot of the times it's communications, or whatever the gateway courses into your a healthcare program, would be a really great place to offer the inbound exam. For master's programs, of course, it's much simpler. You can have it as part of an orientation course, as part of a boot camp, and whatever the very first course is. So for undergraduate programs, you need to identify a good gateway course in which you can offer the inbound exam. For the outbound exams, most often, it's the last course activity in a capstone course if you have one, internship. And I know with the healthcare master's programs, I think the Hopkins has, which is using our assessment, they have 1 year of didactic experience, right? So they do the inbound, outbound in that first year, beginning and end, and then they go on to the residency programs. But I believe some of the other, I don't know if it's the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor or some of the others, they offer the inbound at the beginning of their program, and then the outbound exam is offered after the completion of their residency, a part of their evaluation of that experience. So there are multiple ways, many ways that schools are doing, and would be happy to discuss it with you. Also learn from you how you're planning to offer it. There are a couple ways to deliver the exam to your students. One is through a school-specific microsite, and that's where students go through self-registration, and then they start the exam. And this microsite is also password protected. That's the simplest, easiest, quickest way to set up and offer the exam to your students, right? We'll send you a hyperlink. It's branded, it's password protected. Another way, is, as we've mentioned, is technical integration. So with the technical integration, as I mentioned, you get the automated registration and gradebook posting. So we work with the almost all LMSs. I haven't seen any LMS that has not worked with our service. If you have any questions so far, so I can now lower your hands. It's kind of fun. I see a lot of, just to make sure that if you are raising your hand, you are truly asking a question. Feel free to. Anne, did you have a question, or was it from the previous? I saw your hand raised.
From the previous.
Okay, great. Thank you, Anne. So we have an easy way for you to integrate the assessment service into your academic program, right? An effective and pretty flexible way to integrate it into your academic program and learning management systems. And we also offer you flexible purchase options. If you have a sizable student population that has financial aid or Pell Grants, and purchasing these assessments through a bookstore allows them to use the financial aid funding, then we can definitely sell this assessment through your university bookstore. A lot of the times, especially if you're going through an accreditation, you have a special funding earmarked for accreditation for assessment purposes. So then it's easy. We just do an invoicing at the end of the month in which your students have used the assessment exam. So we call it institutional purchase. Also, what we've noticed is some of the schools are able to, and some are not able to, but to collect a course fee or an assessment fee, then that would also be considered institutional purchase. If again, some schools have different, schools have different models. So some schools are able to ask their students to purchase these assessment exams through our platform. Then students can purchase it by self-registration through our secure e-commerce site. So what does the online exams, what does the online exam look like? So this is our secure online delivery platform, and some of the safety and security measures that I've mentioned put in place to help ensure the integrity of the exam are, the randomized question selection, randomized offering of topics, but also when an exam window pops up, the web browser is disabled. Also, copy paste functionalities are disabled. But we do understand that students have multiple devices. So with that in mind, we have timed each question. We also monitor student activity. We monitor the IP range of your location. If you have sizable student campus, but we also monitor student activity. So if a student keeps moving away from the exam window, a message pops up that tells the student that we've noticed you have navigated away from the exam window. If this keeps happening, we have to notify your instructor, and we do. So this tells the student that there's that sort of big brother watching over them, and also, as part of the student results report, you will get information on how much time students spent on completing the exam, but also how much time students spent away from from the exam window. So these are good metrics to gauge how seriously students have taken the exam, how much effort they're putting, and so that's also another information that would be helpful for you once you're reviewing your results and data. So when a student starts the exam, they are allowed 2 15-minute breaks during the assessment. Um, all questions timed, as I mentioned, and they will have 3 minutes to complete each question. But seriously, no student spends more than anywhere from 45 to 55 seconds to answer each question. Students have to record their answer in order to proceed to the next question, and they cannot backtrack to previously answered or unanswered questions. From the time they start the exam, students will have 48 hours to complete the assessment. And then after the initial login attempt, they'll have 2 more attempts to log back into the system. And Denise probably has a lot of experience providing technical support and client support to faculty and also to students who have dealt with these issues. So when a student completes an assessment exam, they receive a completion certificate, which they can submit for academic accountability. Um, Students can download the exam certificate at the end of the exam, or they also certificate gets emailed to them to the email address they use for registration. Um, with the outbound exams, right, the goal is to receive as accurate data from your students as you can. And especially for undergraduate students, if they're done with their program, if this is just one more thing for them to do, outbound exam or performing well on it may not be as high priority. And then comes the point of incentivizing. You do want to incentivize, right, to make sure that students do their best on this exam. And some schools when they administer the exam as part, for example, of a capstone course, they base 10% of the final grade on the assessment exam. Some schools give complete credit, some schools give extra credit for extra performance, and some schools grade it. So there's a wealth of different experiences that schools use in order to help students to put their best effort on the exam. There's also a thing called under incentivizing, of course, which is more common, but over incentivizing is also not a good idea because, then it don't make it a high stakes exam, is my recommendation. So we talked about, this is what the exam window looks like. There's a logo, there will be your school's logo, and then um, the name of the exam, the topics, subtopics, subjects for which this question is offered, where they are within the exam, which question, how much time is spent, the actual question. This is a multiple choice um, exam, and then they have to select the correct response, record the answer, and then move to the next question. So with the completion certificate, the front page summarizes the results, right, with a breakdown of subject-specific results provided on the back, on the second page. You can download as an administrator the completion certificates through the client admin site. Actually, one thing I want to mention is students really enjoy receiving this completion certificate, especially if they've done the inbound and outbound. They want to see where they started, they want to see where they ended. They also like using it if they are looking for a job, and then specifically some of the skills or competencies mapped to the content of our exam, right? They can use this as proof of having achieved those competencies as another proof. There's an external nationally normed assessment tool, and they can use the results as part of their job application portfolio. If I have 94th percentile on patient care, I can say, look, I've really got that down pretty well. Any questions so far? Oh, great. Thank you. Okay. Um, oh, that's from the previous one. All right. Any questions so far? Okay, I'm going to start talking about the reports next. And as I've mentioned, when you sign up to use any of our assessment tools or online courses and programs, you get access to our client admin site 24/7, full on access. You can have as many people as you need to have access to your data, but you should tell us, your client services managers, who should have access. And different people can have different levels of access. Some read only, some restricted to his or her students' results only, some full on editing rights. So communicate with us, let us know. And then client admin is where you can manage student registration information, right? It's fully searchable, and especially if you have student cohorts identified and campus locations or concentrations and focuses, this could be quite handy. And within client admin, we have a learning outcomes mapping and reporting utility that helps you to manage and report your outcome assessment results across all academic levels. So this is really good if you are dealing with multiple accreditors, right? You might be going through CAMI accreditation, and you might be located in Midwest, and your HLC accreditor also needs your uh, um, assessment results, right? Then what we offer you here is you can upload your institution's learning outcomes um, at a university level, at a college level, at a program level. You could even upload your course level learning outcomes. You can map those to each other across institution and also through a series of assessments. And then you can report the results organized by those learning outcomes in one streamlined process. So to start with, we are providing you with the capability to map to Peregrine's assessment tools, but the next phase will be an ability to map to any assessment tools you might use, right? Those could be your surveys, your portfolios, and various evaluations and rubrics you might use for your student assessment. So that's really cool stuff. If you are representing a client institution, make sure you can take advantage of this learning outcomes mapping and reporting utility. Contact your current client services representative. And if you are new, this is available to you, and we can talk to you when we work setting you up for our assessment. Now, through the client admin, you will have an ability also to generate the individual and summative reports. So we group the reports into sort of three categories, right? Individual student results-based report listed here. And that's what it is, the first report, an Excel file of your student by student results showing the percent of questions students answered correctly for each topic, again, broken down to subject levels. We strongly believe your data is your data, so you should own your data and you should not pay for it. And you can download it, you can export it, you can link it to any of your other databases you might have for further analysis that perhaps might have to do with demographics. We collect students' first name, last name, student ID number, and email address. So those would be the fields you'd use to link. So there's also pairwise report. And then for programmatic evaluation reports, our goal is to provide you with all the reports you might need. So if you have any tables or graphics you're running using the individual student results data, please let us know. We can automate it for you. If you are in need of a particular table or graphics to represent your data, I'm sure there's someone else who could use it. And actually, all of these reports came from the ideas of our client institutions. So please do talk to us. Let us know how we can help you. So the first report here is the longitudinal analysis report. And you can run this report by including up to 4 exam periods. And then you define what an exam period is. It could be based on quarters, on semesters, or annual results. And this is the good one for really checking your continuous improvement processes, right? Once you identify the strengths of your program based on the internal analysis report, that's coming up next, and all the other reports and data. Then once you have good sample and a trend established, and establish that what you're looking, the data is the areas of your focus, you're of course going to make a change plan. Once you implement the changes, you want to see, did the changes you implement have intended impact, right? So that's of course excellent table to come and report to check it. The internal analysis report is going to be your go-to to really understand the ins and outs and the strengths and opportunities for improving your um, program curriculum. And there's an executive summary version of it. So this is comparing your inbound to outbound results. There's also one external benchmark you can include in it. So it's a really good detailed report for you to understand your students' performance results better. If you wanted to compare your program's results, your students' results against aggregate pools, you would run the external comparison. We have a CAME accredited program average. We have, of course, aggregate pools based on institutional characteristics, right? Program delivery modality and accrediting body affiliation. So for-profit, not-for-profit, private, public, and online versus traditional versus blended, and versus SACS, HLC accredited, or in this case, AUPHA certified or CAME accredited. There's an executive summary version of this report available to you. And then if you have multiple concentrations and focuses, and I don't see it as much within the healthcare program, some, but not as much as say business or accounting or some of the other areas, public administration. But if you have a healthcare program with accounting focus, for example, you want to compare the results of the accounting focus program against the healthcare program with patient care. So on accounting, your accounting students, are they performing at a higher level than the patient care students, right? So that would be a good report to use to get information on that. A student cohort comparison report is very similar, but here you define what a student cohort is. Sometimes it's multiple campus locations, sometimes it's different types of learners. You might have mid-careerists, or you might have entry-level career professionals, or you might have adult learners versus more, if in undergraduate program, more traditional learners. So that's also another great report that helps you to understand your programs and your students' performance levels. In terms of supplemental reports, let me start from the grade scale report. We talked about how you can use the outbound exam as part of for example, a capstone and part of a final course grade. And we provide you grade scale conversion report that has grading scales based on percentile scoring that runs from anywhere from 50 to 100, 55 to 100. The idea here is this is a comprehensive assessment, and the average is going to fall anywhere from 4 to 60 to 65%. But if you wanted to use it as part of a 100-point base system, you need assistance. So that's what that report is. If you wanted to take a look at information for each of the statistical information for each of the aggregates, you're going to run the aggregate extraction report. If you wanted to see which schools make up each of these different aggregates, you would run the client schools and aggregates report. Also, we offer you a complimentary service of attaching a student survey to your outbound exam. Typically, the student surveys are offered before the outbound exam, so we don't recommend you offering more than 8 to 10 questions on this survey, because you want your students fresh and sharp when they take the outbound exam. And then we'll provide you a summary report of the survey results. This is an optional, of course, that's administered in conjunction with an outbound exam. The questions could be Likert scale, multiple choice, open-ended. And so there's that great flexibility with the student survey. One thing it could be, you could offer questions that provide you answers to your indirect measures of learning or competencies, right? Or it could be just a straight-on student satisfaction survey. I'm going to come back to the response distractor report, which is one of a kind report that only we offer. And then as part of a response distractor report, but also we are working on a new report, we're going to call it gap analysis report. It's going to pull some really great information into one report so you can even better understand your students' results and your program's performance. So this is what the response distractor report looks like. And what it is we wanted to understand why students answer questions incorrectly. So far, we have been looking at the percent of questions students answered correctly, right? The knowledge levels, good. But there's that other side of the coin for which we have a wealth of data. So we used what's called the response distractors, 5 types of response distractors. And the idea is students answering questions incorrectly due to calculation-based error, concept-based error, conclusion-based error, fact-based error, or interpretation-based error, right? And then what we did is we took our test bank sample, and for each of the incorrect responses, we coded it to one of these 5 types of response distractors. And of course, this is the report you're going to use the last, having reviewed the internal analysis, external comparison, the program comparison, and so forth. And then once you have good sample, of course, the trend established and established that where are the areas of strengths, you will come to this report. The first set of reports will be your sample. The second is your sample compared to the test bank. And then the third is your sample compared to the aggregate pool of comparison you selected. Whenever there's a statistically significant difference between your sample and the test bank sample or the aggregate pool sample, positive or negative, we actually highlight those cells. So you don't have to, squinting and trying to see these small numbers. So what does it mean, right? So for example, I mentioned if you have a healthcare program with accounting focus, for example, or finance focus, and somehow your students are making errors at a much higher frequency than the occurrence in the test bank sample or in the aggregate pool of comparison, uh, then um, then the report suggests how to, remedy this situation. Perhaps your students could use math for healthcare accounting professionals. Add a couple review sessions and see how that helps to improve their results. Another one is sort of gets at the critical thinking, or proxy for critical thinking is a conclusion-based error, right? Or interpretation-based error. So when you see errors at a higher frequency due to conclusion-based error, the one of the ways to correct that could be, I mean, contact hours are limited, right? So you can't add more coverage for the content. But can you add an activity? Can you add an assignment or group activity where students get to really, dig into the concept, use their critical thinking, and get good, grasp of the concept to come up with the right conclusions, or with an ability to interpret, be it the issue at hand or the answers that are offered to solve that particular issue correctly. So it's kind of really cool report, gives you a lot more insight into how to improve your report, where your weaknesses, where your strengths are, but also how to improve upon the results, right? So that's kind of really cool stuff that you get the most value and benefit out of using our assessment tool. So this is what I have for you. And within the client admin site, just one other thing is we offer you the educational site. Um, and this is a way to share innovations and best practices for learning outcomes, evaluation techniques, and report interpretation for your quality assurance needs. And so it's if you have a new team joining for accreditation or assessment, um, um, related committees, you can definitely direct them here. And uh, I would be happy to send you the guest access instructions. Info at Peregrine Global is our, general email address. My email address, most of you may know, Jamian Soren at Peregrine Global. So I'll be happy also to share the PDF file of this presentation with you. How often, so I have a question. How often does the student have access to take the exams? So typically, in springtime, you're offering the outbound exam, right? So a student gets the link, or it's offered as part of their LMS, whichever course or LMS this exam is offered, and then they start the process. Once they start the exam, they have 48 hours to complete it. Within those 48 hours, they can take two breaks and then two login attempts. Is that what you ask? And then that's the outbound exam. And then your incoming students, most typically in the fall, they go through the same procedure, but they take the inbound. So at some point, if the person who's taken the inbound exam stays through your program and achieves seniority, senior class level, or if it's a master's program, completion of the program, then they take the outbound exam. So a student might end up taking it twice. Um, Other studies that show that 10 questions is a statistically valid sample size to measure competency attainment, knowledge attainment. So um, that's why you need to think about the purpose of the exam, right? So 10 questions per student, and you have 100 students in your cohort. And so if you are looking to evaluate a program, that's a good sample, right? But if you wanted to evaluate an individual student, and although we do not promote it, you can create a course level assessment. So, or you can add, and I didn't mention that, custom topic. So say you have your 15, healthcare topics, and your program is really strong in patient care, because that's the only one that's coming to my mind. So that's your core focus. So in addition to the regular 10 on patient care, that's part of the tool, standard tool that you use for external benchmarking if you care for it, you can add another patient care with 30 questions. That's for individual student assessment. So that's something you can do. But also, if you see a topic that we don't offer, and that's essential to your program, you're welcome to submit us your test bank questions, and we can offer your topic as part of the platform, as part of along with the rest of the Peregrine topics. You will not get external benchmarking because you're the only institution using that topic, but you will get the internal analysis, the inbound and outbound. So does that answer your question? Okay, can you unmute me before ending the webinar? Oh yes, absolutely, I will. Um, Oh, good, good. And yeah, usually, Denise and I, we are running this together. And Denise, please introduce yourself and say your insight from client service management team.
Hi, Alma and all the attendees. Yeah, I was having a little bit of technical problems, so I had to jump in as a participant instead of a co-host this morning. Alma, great information on the webinar, and you did cover the various reports available in the client admin site. I just wanted to say that as a client service manager, we are here to help our clients navigate through the client admin site so that you can generate the reports that you need. If you are a client and you're having any difficulties with that, or you have never had a client admin tour, get with us and we will definitely help you do that. We can conduct a client admin tour and show you how to generate the reports. We'll share our screen and walk you through that. And I just wanted to note also that as a client service manager, the other thing that we do is provide student support to your students. We monitor the student support tickets 7 days a week. So if students are having any technical difficulties, they can submit a student support ticket and we will get back with them within the same day that they submit it, even on the weekends, even on the holidays. So that's another great service that we provide to you and your students. We also help with the setup to make sure that any assessments that you are looking at adding to your school is set up exactly how you need it, including the cohorts, so that you get full benefit of all the information and data that we can provide you. So I just wanted to add that little information there, Alma. So if anybody has additional questions, they can reach out to the client services department, and we'll be happy to get right back with you.
Great. Thank you so very much, Denise. Thank you. And client services, if you are representing a school, they share the same email address. It's pretty simple, clientservices@peregrineglobal.com. And they work as a team, and that way they can get to your questions in the most efficient way. So feel free to email them. With that, I'd like to thank you. Let me just check one more time if there are any questions.